Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you are fit and well on this lovely sunny Thursday afternoon. I have to keep thinking what day it is. It's surprising. The one thing I have lost, one of the many things I've lost from being in this lockdown, is I've lost track of what the days are and when they are. And weekends has suddenly disappeared as well. But anyway, I am delighted that today my guest is Caroline Plumb, who many of you will know. Caroline Plumb OBE. Sorry, must drop my cap and all the rest of it. Who many of you will know from the last two summits, where she has been one of our keynote speakers and got a huge rating from you as our members in the follow-up, and 90, I believe it was 98%, which is a damn good rating, you know.
I didn't even know that, Gary, so thank you.
Yeah, no, it was good. So they like what you said. The main thing being that I think you came across as one of them, which is good, even though they don't all have letters after their name, or those letters anyway. And yeah, I think you told it real, which I think is good. And you're just telling me that you've got your children there as well, so you are now back to being even more full-time working mum, as well as running fluidly. So I think you might, to begin with, if you tell us a little bit about you, because I've heard your story and it's quite interesting, where you come from and why you're doing this, and tell us a bit more about you.
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone, I'm Caroline Plumb, and I guess I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So I started my first business when I was 21, straight out of university. I was going to go and join a management consultancy, and because I thought that was what you were meant to do after university, go and get a proper job. But a friend and I, it was .com time, actually, the first .com boom, and a friend and I thought maybe we should start a business and see how that goes. So we were 21, straight out of university, had an idea, and turned down the high-paid jobs and took our £250 each, and kind of went into business. And we built a business called Fresh Minds, which is still trading today, 20 years on. That's, well, up until the recent pandemic, was doing about 10-12 million turnover with 50 people, and we built that really from the ground up, from the two of us sitting around a table helping businesses connect with high quality talent. So after building that business for around about 10, almost 15 years, and having, as you mentioned, Gary, 3 kids along the way, the youngest turned 1, and I thought this was a really good time, strangely, to build another business. It felt the right time in my personal life and professional life to do something a bit different. And so I wanted to start another business. I had always been really passionate about technology. I'd read engineering at university. I was a programmer for GCHQ in my summer holidays. I was really into software and technology and wanted to kind of get back to that. But I also wanted to solve a problem that I really knew something about. And because they always say, fall in love with your problem, not your solution. And so for me, one of the things that had been a real headache in running my business was cash flow. I had all this information about my financial past, but never any information about my financial future and what was happening. Could I make payroll? Which bills should I be paying? Could I afford to take on a new member of staff? Did I need to reduce my costs? I didn't have any visibility into that, and I was running the whole thing off spreadsheets, trying to figure out which debtors to collect and which people to pay. So, I decided that yes, you have accounting software for that record of the past, but really what a lot of businesses want is that cash flow forecast and cash flow management piece that is the reality of running a business and is for the financial future. And there really wasn't any provision around that, and that is why I decided to start a business in that space, which became Fluidly. Quit my first business. I'm still a main shareholder and director of it, but started it afresh. And Fluidly was born at the back end of 2016 and launched in 2017.
Wow. Yeah, cash flow is one of those strange things, isn't it? Very few businesses seem to appreciate how important controlling cash flow is. Now, I know that you actually got a government grant, or a grant from somebody, to try and put together a training course so that you could get some of these small businesses and try and teach them the relevance of cash flow. Do you find it's difficult to persuade clients that they should take time to think about this?
Not anymore. I think up until about 6 weeks ago, I think I think a lot of businesses know instinctively what cash is and actually find it in many ways easier than profit,
Yeah,
because people get very confused between the P&L and the cash flow forecast or cash flow statements, and they get very confused between profit and cash. But when it comes down to the reality of thinking, what is my bank balance going to be? Or can I afford to make a payment? Or how much money do I need to put aside for tax? What's my VAT bill going to be? Those are all the kind of reality of running a business. Those are the key questions that people really have. So instinctively, they have a lot of knowledge about cash, but equally, it can be scary to manage. And it can be really difficult. There's lots of moving parts to it. And so people get worried about, well, how do I figure out what's actually going to happen? And that's really where Fluidly comes in. It's focused very much on the practical realities of running cash flow and cash flow management day to day, which is the sort of the nitty, the kind of grimy, realistic part of running a business. It is about managing your debtors. It's about timing those payments. It's about figuring out what your bank balance is going to be. This is the kind of messy reality. And I think particularly at a time like this, then cash flow has never been more important. And I think cash, very much is king again. And people are really recognizing that it is those little pieces like, am I going to have enough? Can I make the payroll this month? Even though I know if I'm going to get my furlough payment, back next month, have I got enough to bridge me in the meantime?
So you didn't have enough foresight to have a COVID-19 button on your software somewhere. So it took us all by surprise, didn't it, really? I mean, this is just unheard of, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think, no one saw it coming, clearly. But I think we were fortunate in that we'd sort of worried about it and made some plans actually on it as a leadership team as far back as in January, partly my own obsession with following social media and getting my masks bought early.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of, what the product can do, Fluidy's been very quick and agile to adapt to COVID-19. And one of the things that we've done very quickly is we have a part of the product called Goal Planner, which is basically a scenario planner. And actually our goals prior to this, people have been quite optimistic. So their goals were like around things like, hire a new member of staff or pursue a new opportunity. But actually we very quickly built some new goals, one of which is the most popular currently, which is keep the business above water. And what that allows you to do very quickly is to make adjustments to your revenue line for a period of time or forever, and make adjustments to your cost line and immediately see the impact on cash. And so we've got we call kind of sliders and dials approach, which makes it really simple to just put in new numbers and change the sliders and see the effect on cash. And we did that very much in response to the pandemic. Previously our scenarios were these sort of growth scenarios, but we've very quickly allowed businesses to very quickly see the sort of managing survival scenarios, really.
Yeah, I think I mentioned before, certainly in meetings we've been to together, but at the conference, that I find it very difficult to work with accountants who always want a budget. And then you say, right, well, all right, we'll budget for another million. You get to 999,000 and you fail to meet your budget. But actually, you've grown the business by 999,000. There seems to be no appreciation for that. But I think that the cash flow is something which a lot of businesses miss, because particularly in smaller businesses, if the bank's looking okay, they take that as being a profit just waiting to be used, and it's not. It's money waiting to be used, yes, but not to be spent willy-nilly. It's something that you've got to, pay the next VAT bill with or something like that. And I think a lot of people forget that. And then I think this is why also talking to quite a few colleagues at HMRC, a lot of people use HMRC as their bank. And HMRC has been trying to stop that happening now with new penalties. And I think Making Tax Digital was certainly brought in to make people realise that you've got your VAT in, but you almost put it in another account somewhere, because that's not yours. That's ours. You're just holding it for us for a little while, and it's difficult. But I remember many years ago, probably 30 years ago now, I was crossing Estonia, and I was with the Minister of Finance, and they just left the Russian rule. And we were having a bit of a difficult meeting with this Estonian, because he didn't speak any English, and his translator didn't speak a great deal either. And he suddenly started waving a diary at me. He said, "This is what we want." But we thought, oh God, he wants us to print diaries for him or something like that. What we gathered in the end was Russia had always worked on the basis that, we know what's happened, and you had a phone, and if you wanted raw materials, you rang up and asked somebody. And if you wanted more money, you rang up and asked somebody else. They didn't have to worry about the future. But now they were out, they had to, the diary was, I need to have something which will help me plan. So that's a long time ago, obviously. And it's interesting, I think, that now we've got a couple of companies. I mean, yours is probably the leading one, but a couple of companies that are working specifically on cash flow, because you really pick this out as being a major need. Where do you differ then from a spreadsheet? Because in times like this, dear old accountants and increasingly bookkeepers have fallen back on the old tree spreadsheet that they've dusted off from somewhere in their Microsoft. What's the big plus for you, your product?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that that we do very much versus a spreadsheet is save you a lot of time and money. So I always found one of the most annoying things about building a cash flow forecast was that I had to import a whole lot of information that you already knew was in the data. You know, payrolls the 25th of the month, rent is every quarter, the VAT is coming out on this quarter. I've got these direct debits going in. These customers pay by direct debit. They're regular. These ones pay. You know, I've got to work out all my receivables, when each one's going to get paid, and I end up running a 12-week, cash flow forecast. When I'm going invoice by invoice, when do I think each little part is going to, to actually land in terms of cash? And it's very time consuming to build. So if you're a bookkeeper trying to do this for every one of your businesses in a dynamic situation like today, when you've got multiple businesses with multiple changes and everything changing all the time, what you really want to do is take out a lot of that heavy lifting. So what Fluidly does is plugs into the accounting package and automatically builds a baseline forecast for you. So automatically picks out all the regular payments, all the recurring payments, all the consistent customers, and then for every other invoice makes an estimate of when do we think it will get paid based upon the payment behavior of that prior, that counterparty, that customer.
Oh, right. So it's that personal then. So if you've got a bad payer, it presumes that you're going to get badly paid again.
Exactly. So if you're, a good payer, perhaps you pay regularly on 30, maybe you're late, maybe you're not for 30 days, but you're regularly late to 40 days exactly. You'll predict those at 40 days. Right. But actually those payers that are, ad hoc or inconsistent, it will flag to you those that are going out past their expected normal behavior and pull those out for you so you can see them. But it will also, customer by customer, make an estimate of when we think those payments will land, and then you can adjust those easily. So very rapidly, you can get to a cash flow forecast that is always in sync with your accounts, stays up to date automatically, rolls forward automatically, but without any of that sort of spreadsheet faff. But once you've got that baseline forecast, then you can very quickly, as I said before, using Goal Planner, make adjustments to it. So you can do the what if my, revenue's down 20%? What if I cut my costs of these cost lines, those cost lines, down 5%? What if I reduce my payroll? What if I stop paying this cost? You can very quickly make those scenarios and see the effect on cash flow live as you play with it.
Right, okay. Oh, so that's quite a big advantage there, and it obviously makes it more appealing. When you've got a lot of clients, then is there any sort of limit on the number of clients, or do you work on a license basis? How do you sell your product? How do you sell Fluidly?
Yeah, so we create a membership package, particularly for bookkeepers. So it starts from £35 a month, and that allows you to give Fluidly Light across all your clients. So that allows you to deploy the Fluidly product on a 3-month forecasting basis to every single one of the members, to every single one of your clients as part of the membership. And then we'll also support you with activation of those clients, with email response, marketing and training, which is the CPD certified training we talked about before, with onboarding, support to the tool, all that sort of piece. And then clients can then choose themselves to upgrade to a 12-month forecast if required. So say you actually want to do a CBILS loan for one of your clients, you can see the effect and model the effect of that loan. You can say, I think I'm going to get £100,000 in on the 15th of May. How does that affect the cash flow? And actually one of the newest features of Fluidly is that we now have the ability to apply for those loans within the product. So we have a base of 15 lenders, 20 lenders who are now already, we can actually see whether you're going to be eligible for that based upon your credit profile of a customer. So it's all, for us, cash flow has always been a kind of, it's not just about forecasting, it's about cash flow management. That was always a thing I felt when I was running my business.
Yeah.
One of the kind of main jobs, and we talk about 2 main jobs to be done. We think about, what does a product need to be done? Why would I hire this product? Well, the first is I've got to get cash in the bank. And how do you get cash in the bank? You manage your debtors, or you take some sort of debt or equity financing. But managing your debtors is the key piece. And secondly, you've got to manage your payments out. You've got to manage your outflows. So how do I figure out who I should be paying and when, and manage those cost lines? And that's what Fluidly is really. It's a kind of smart wrapper around the finances that provides this intelligence layer around cash flow. It's not just forecasting, it's cash flow management. And so for us, it's all about it's the reality of running a business, the real kind of like pain and thrill of that.
So do you have an idea at the moment of roughly what percentage of your clients are bookkeepers or accountants or businesses direct? Do you have anything that, if you can't share them, then please say, but I just wondered how big the take has been with bookkeepers particularly.
Yeah, I mean, we predominantly go to market, and we work mostly with accountants and bookkeepers. So I would say probably 80% of our users are accountants and bookkeepers, and 20% of our users come direct as small businesses. But when we have access, when the accountant works or bookkeeper works with a client, they might set it up and then they'll share it, and their client will also have access. But so it's very much a collaborative product.
So do you find that the actual bookkeeper will use it for themselves, or is it the old cobbler's wife story that the cobbler's wife never gets to choose?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, in fact, bookkeeper, one of our accounting partners recently just said that she logged into hers to build out her COVID scenarios recently, and to see what was the effect on her cash flow. And I think she was really pleased to see not just the ability to get there quickly, but she said she hadn't actually logged into the product for a couple of months, and she was sort of like, wow, she dropped us a note to say, wow, products progressed as well so much. So, we do develop new features all the time. It's not just the goal planning response to COVID, but it's the funding pieces, it's the new scenarios. It's just the product is always moving.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to do there.
Our members will know already, they have been told, but on Friday, we've actually got a Fluidly webinar, which is specific Fluidly. It's specifically selling Fluidly, telling you what it does. It will show you how it all works, etc., etc. So just so that they are aware, that's coming up. That's on Friday. So that should be interesting. I think that's the first one we've done for you, isn't it?
Yes, right? It is. Yeah, no, we're thrilled to work with us.
Yeah, no, that's great. So where do you think the big growth is going to come for Fluidly then? Where is it just more of the same, or is there something else that you can talk about that you think is going to be your future plan?
Our future, our plan is to fulfill our vision, right? So we started with this purpose of helping business sleep better at night, and that's why I got into it. It was my personal total sleeplessness in my first business, just worrying about money. And so for us, when the research we've done, in fact, we did some research for National Sleep Day, which was in March, but of course, no one noticed National Sleep Day because no one was sleeping because of the pandemic. But but more than 2/3 of business owners say they're so worried at night that they don't about their money, they don't sleep. And I'm sure the bookkeepers here have had many calls from clients over the past few weeks, just worried so much about money and how to survive through it. And so for us, it's about the features that we deliver are those that help business have that control and certainty and confidence around their financial future. So the things you'll see for us in terms of growth will be continuous development of the platform. We've got lots and lots of things that we want to build into it that constantly improve the ability to manage money, manage that cash in the bank, and also add new functionality like being able to support businesses with financial products like loans if they need those, but also in the future, different types of financial products tailored to their financial profile. So, we see the opportunity of really being this sort of support to businesses. The other piece that we've done recently is a newsletter that goes out on a Sunday morning. There was much debate internally as to what time to send this, so what day of the week and what time. And strangely, we've gone with a kind of Sunday morning delivery. And it's the newsletter is called Intelligent Cash, and every week our editor Lucy pulls together the kind of best of money management for small businesses. Because where do you go as a small business to manage your money? You can read the Sunday Times, but it's quite large business oriented. You have a lot of technical information, but Intelligent Cash is sort of a fun, easy way to manage money that every week has tips around money management. Every week has a freebie section of people that are giving things away for free. One of the most popular sections of the newsletter,
Right.
of kind of things that small business can get. And then recently about managing money more generally. So for us, it's about how do we consistently act as this route of advice, support, things that help people get a better night's sleep by managing their money better.
And what platforms does it link into? All the big three, presumably, plus who else?
At the moment, we link in with with Xero and QuickBooks, but currently not yet with Sage. But that's also on the roadmap for development.
And that cloud-based, or do you do desktop at all?
Yeah, that's the roadmap. So at the moment, it's Xero and QuickBooks, and we hope to have a desktop connection to Sage 50 in the future.
Right. And what about the QuickBooks Desktop? Does that work? Because they do have a bit of that lying around still.
No, at the moment, it's just the cloud products.
Yeah, I think bookkeepers have been very quick to adopt the cloud because they have a very peripatetic lifestyle. They move from client to client. They're with one client and get a call from another one, etc., etc. So cloud was seen as an absolute godsend for them, and we've never quite understood why everybody else hasn't been quite so quick. There are still a lot of people who've missed out on this. I think they've come into their own a little bit at the moment because they can sit at home and they can work with all of their clients in one go, which is absolutely fantastic. And certainly over the last couple of days, they've been rushed off their feet from filling in the furlough payments.
Yes, and I think there's a real importance for, and a role for accountants or bookkeepers in particular, who are so much closer to the finances of their clients, to support around cash flow at the moment. I think the number of businesses that are looking for support in terms of understanding, who can I furlough, when can I furlough, when will I actually get the money back, what should I try and do in terms of which can I defer, which can I negotiate with my office at the moment, how do I realistically model the effect of different payment terms from my customers, but also what I can pay out to my suppliers, and trying to really get close and having that kind of just sort of advisory, but also kind of more shoulder to lean on type advice that's kind of coming up at the moment.
So looking at it in practical terms, one of our members decides, yes, I'd like to have this. This sounds great. This is what my clients need. You made it sound very much like a plug and play. I'm sure that's easier, but I mean, you presumably do some sort of support so that our members who may not have dealt with cash flow in this way will have a better understanding of what the capabilities are. Yes,
that's right. So I mean, we have plenty of support available. So once people become a member, then we have an account manager who will step by step guide you onto the platform. So that would include training, onboarding of your clients, support with invitations to clients around their cash flow, specific tailored webinars and advice around onboarding, so you can for training of the product and usage of it, and also examples of how to position that to clients in different ways. People price the service. Some people offer it for free, some people charge it through, some people prefer just to hand it to clients. So we can advise on the right way to actually turn this into a service line as a support line at the moment. We also have
Jane Lynch, one of our members here, is listening. He said, "Hello, Caroline. I have one client that this would be useful for. If I try the free version for size, will I be able to produce meaningful reports for the client?"
Yes, you can. So I need to check exactly which parts are in the pro features and which ones are in the free features. But we do have the ability to download a forecast and download a cash flow for sharing it into Excel or other formats. The free version gives a 3-month forecast, and the pro gives a full 12 months. So depending on the time frame. But yes, you can get a lot of the features in the free version.
And when you've produced all your figures, etc., you get this as a graphic rather than a straightforward spreadsheet list of 24 columns or whatever it might be.
Yeah, you can download it as either. So you can download it with a graphic on top and then the columns, and then you can just cut it in Excel as well.
I always find that the graphic helps rather than just look for the columns that have got brackets around them or something, and it solidifies it in the mind, I think, a lot more easily if it's a bit more palatable and
yeah, no, absolutely. And in fact, in some ways, I kind of think people should, rather than we download all the time and share in other formats, I think it is a live collaborative tool, so you can adjust that forecast, play with it, build new scenarios in it, save those scenarios, and try different things. So It doesn't have to be a one-time usage. Although if we do have clients that are looking to model for loans at the moment, for example, and want to model the effect of taking out a furlough or applying for the CBILS scheme by one of the banks, one of the lenders at the moment, for one of the coronavirus loans, then you can model that and then also download that for a bank.
Right. Jay says brilliant, thank you. So, bearing in mind that we've got our bookkeepers range from the small practice, 2 or 3 clients bringing up children, quite happy to be that, right the way through to some people who want to have 3 or 4 branches, 30 or 40 employees. One of our branches has got over 50 employees. If we're looking at this across the board, obviously a lot of people will be using their spreadsheet at the moment. Yours is a completely, I have actually seen it. I know I'm asking you a lot of questions if I don't know, but I have seen it. I'm just trying to give you the opportunity to sell it to us, obviously. But for some of our members, looking at £32 a month might seem expensive. Now, how do you sell to them the advantage of what they will have and what I'm asking you to do their job for them, really? How do you sell that on to them and therefore then on to their clients? How do you approach this?
Yeah, so I mean, £35 a month is about the price of a cup of coffee a day. It's and that's the sort of ability to give clients a cash flow forecast that gives peace of mind. And if you have, 2 clients, that's obviously £17. If you had 4, it's £8, and it's often rechargeable to clients, so they're often willing to pay that for that software cost on top themselves, or the service of delivering it. So to produce a cash flow normally would take, if you did it in Excel, it would probably take a few hours to get to that starting position. The great thing is that you can get to a cash flow forecast in minutes by literally just hooking it up and making a few adjustments to get to a base forecast. So it saves an awful lot of time and money to deliver something of huge value to clients. And it is that kind of peace of mind, really. And it is, I think at the moment, more than anything, having a record of what happened in the past, it is really useful for compliance. It's essential for compliance, essential for the past, for keeping records. But there's never been, we've had such a dislocation and a disruption in events that the past really is no guide to the future now. And so really what businesses need at the moment is a clear plan, a bridge to the other side. And you can't rely on the historic financial data to get you there. It suddenly needs to be a new plan to move forward with.
Yeah, and I think we've been talking to our members for the last 4 weeks or so that we've been running this program, and just saying that really this is all hell let loose at the moment. Multiply this by 10 when we come out of this, because everything that's gone through the books, which is unusual, is going to have to be fit in somehow. It's going to have to be sorted. But I think businesses, unfortunately, we might lose some of the businesses. And I know some of the retail sector are disappearing, and even Virgin Airways, for example. But I think there will be a lot of entrepreneurs out there who've managed to get through this, who are going to want to grow, who are going to want to do more, who are going to want to get more out of, to begin with, a smaller market. So they've got to be leaner, they've got to be meaner, etc. And I think the cash flow is just going to be, it's almost like having the extra right arm. It's going to be that important.
Yeah, I mean, I think every business needs to have a really good grip on its finances at the moment, particularly on its cash. You could be highly profitable, but as a business, but if people are recognizing that if you're highly profitable, but a lot of your assets are illiquid, then that is not of any help at the moment. Really, we are back to the fundamentals of cash management and cash flow management as for survival. So it is, in terms of managing costs in a business, identifying what is that peace of mind worth, and at this time, I think it's probably worth that at least. To be service.
I felt quite a bit sorry actually for Richard Branson. I don't normally feel sorry for, but he was just saying that everything that he's got, everybody talks about him having billions, but he hasn't got billions in the bank. It's all his companies. It's the accumulative worth of his companies, and one island, which he's, I think, putting up, isn't he, somewhere as surety, which, he's down to his last 250 million. But based on what he's trying to get finance for, it is affecting all people in different ways, which is quite a shock. 80% of our members are women. Most of them have got children, and they're bringing up the children, and very much like yourself. How do you get the confidence to do what you do? because it's something that our members are all, you know, we keep telling them, you've got to be confident in yourself. You've got to sell you. Where does it come from?
Confidence. I don't know. I mean, I think actually what entrepreneurs are really good at doing is managing risk. And, you know, people think of people, a stereotype of an entrepreneur is a Richard Branson, right? It's someone that is kind of really out there, really maverick, try anything, go hot air ballooning, jump out of planes, that sort of thing, and kind of risk. But actually, I think it is just that. It's just a stereotype. I think what entrepreneurs are really good at is identifying opportunities and then managing the risk around them. That includes the downside risk and managing the downside risk. And actually, very often, I kind of think Dr. Pepper, you know, I don't think it's a real PhD, but, you know, he has you know, that saying from that old advert, you know, what's the worst that can happen? Actually, when you think about the downside risk of starting a business, the worst that can happen is not really that bad. You know, actually, I think it's really worth having a go at something because the upside can be terrific, and that can be as much about personal enjoyment, challenge, you know, control of destiny, direction, the ability to be creative, think of new solutions, take it directions you want. I mean, there's so many upsides to starting and running a business and looking to scale it. And the downside isn't always, you know, you can always get another job.
Get up and try again. Yeah. The one word you mentioned there that echoes with me is control. Most of the people that are bookkeepers, it would appear to me, want control, and they want to take people's books away from them and really sort them out and get them done, etc. And I think that, yeah, the bit that they perhaps know, yeah, I can do the job. I know I'm a good bookkeeper, but, you know, it's selling themselves that some of them suffer with, which I can't see when I'm speaking to them because they get so enthusiastic. And I always say, if you're enthusiastic about your product and you get involved, and then you use the same enthusiasm to ask about the other person's business. What is it that makes them tick? Because they love their business. It's their life, the same as yours is. So find out, draw out of them what it is that makes them tick. And then, you know, they'll sell you before you do if you do it properly.
Yeah, I mean, I think control is one of those funny things. It's not always a bad thing.
No.
But I always talk to my team a lot about the difference between what's and how's. And I think being very, very clear about what you're trying to achieve, you know, what are the goals, what are the standards, what are the objectives, you know, where are the boundary conditions, accept solutions that simply aren't acceptable, or solutions that are, you know, can you get a really crisp definition of, you know, the what's. But then after that, I think if you're too controlling on the how's, you can really stifle innovation. So I think you often want to be really quite clear as to what you're trying to achieve, but you often want to be quite relaxed about how you want to get there. And so managing that is, you know, is a real skill. At times you want to control what's and how's. If there's a fire in the building, you know, no one wants to spend any time debating what the right solution is. It's just, let's get out now. But if you're trying to achieve a big goal, like, you know, a solution, you know, when we built Goal Planner, you know, we knew we wanted to have a solution that was straightforward, intuitive to use, that would allow you to make adjustments to a forecast, but not having to have a very specific set of financial models in mind. You know, how do you do that? Well, leaving that as an open question to the team really generated a lot of creative solutions that came up with something really different in the market versus something that had been done before. And that is a kind of balancing those what's and how's, I think, in the control.
Yeah. Paula Vesey-Smith is trying to say, hi to Caroline, enjoying the session, some really sound advice. In fact, she said sound advice twice. It must be really sound advice. Anyway, great. You mentioned a team there. You're obviously an entrepreneur. You want to move things forward. You have this enthusiasm. In fact, recently I heard of something called a Kellogg, and I kept going with the meeting, and I didn't know quite what it meant. Apparently it's a serial entrepreneur. Oh, isn't that terrible? Anyway, so you're a Kellogg, but never mind. How do you find the people to bring on board to your team who are as enthusiastic as you, are as entrepreneurial as you, but are not quite wanting to do it themselves? They want to work with you as part of a team.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, I think if we have to ask my top 3 skills, after being able to fall asleep instantly anywhere, which is definitely my number 1 skill, my second, I think, is probably recruiting. And that I think I'm good at recruiting, and that means that I I'm able to have a really just brilliant team around me. And if you have the confidence, and it is confidence in some ways, the confidence to hire people more experienced, better, and frankly more capable than yourself, if you have that confidence, then actually you can build a really brilliant team who can then deliver on the areas that you need. And I think as an entrepreneur, you have to be really acutely aware of your own strengths and weaknesses. So, you know, I'm really clear about what are the things that I'm good at and where am I, you know, where are the gaps that I'm looking for in my team. And I'll always look for certain types of people that can be complementary to that, both in terms of functional specialism. You know, clearly I don't know anything about, you know, programming algorithms for data science. So there's functional specialism, but I'll also look for behavioral traits as well that are a natural complement to me. You know, I'm an ideas person. I like to get things done. I like to say yes to things and to run at them very quickly. I'll look always in a kind of COO or chief commercial operator as a complement to me, to someone that will see, you know, act as a natural break on some of that, who likes to run things process-wise and focus things down very clearly, because I know that's the right dynamic for the business. So I'll be looking for that when I'm hiring, looking for the kind of yin to the meet a yang, I suppose.
So if we were to talk to your team, obviously they tell us you fall asleep very easily, but apart from that, what would they say are your bad points?
Oh, well, it's my bad points. Well, you probably go and read my glass door to see my good points and my bad points. But I think bad points, you know, one of my team might describe me once as an ideas volcano. So he said, you know, Caroline, you come up with a lot of ideas. And I think, and it's also being careful not to blow off the team too much in terms of focus by creating lots of ideas. He also said I was like a smiling viper. He said, you know, he said he was like being in a one-to-one with you. It's kind of like, great, that looks good. And you'll be like, okay, what's about this? And that's all looks good. And suddenly you'll be like, what is that? And drilling down to the detail. And he's like, oh, he's got me. So, so I think having, you know, I think what you develop over time as a leader, as a manager, is the ability to, you know, you have to have a radar that scans across multiple things, and you're constantly spinning your radar internally within the business and externally within the market, just to keep a check on things. And I think one of the things you're looking for when leading a business or running your own business is to get a sense of when things just feel off, and therefore you need to look. And I think, you know, one of the areas that felt very off to me earlier in this year, you know, was in fact, in looking at on social media, the Chinese government's response to the coronavirus just seemed really out of kilter. You know, it seemed disproportionate as to anything I'd seen before, and so it put us as a team on very high alert to something is off here, and so it meant that we were in a fortunate position that we were, you know, we had work from home scenarios lined up very early. We had our systems lined up very early because it just seemed that something was off. So in terms of faults, I would say yes, they probably come up with too many different ideas. Should focus more on fewer things, and
That's difficult though, isn't it? Because I mean, we get excited by ideas. You know, I mean, I'm not an entrepreneur at your level, but yeah, my problem is also I can think of ideas on a daily, in an hour by hour basis if necessary, but that's what's exciting.
Yeah, I think it's and it's a bit like a rubber band, isn't it? You know, you've got to provide enough stretch in it that it doesn't go slack, because I think unless there's enough stretch in something in the system, it doesn't have any kind of real energy in it, but too much stretch and it just snaps. And so a lot of the judgment call is understanding, you know, how far to stretch people, systems, processes, speed. You know, how much do you push something at any one time, and when do you pull back? And that is really a question of touch. And, you know, when can a system absorb new ideas, or when is it actually, no, we just need to stop right now? But one of the things in a startup is that you are always resource constrained. So you always have insufficient resource for all the things you want to do. So, you know, one thing I say to the team is like, where does this idea sit out of 10? And unless it's a 9 or a 10, it's just a no. And actually saying no to good ideas is really hard to do. And that is really where the skill lies. An 8 out of 10 idea is still a no when you've got little resource, and yet saying no to an 8 out of 10 idea is absolutely the hardest thing, because it's a great idea, it has solid return on investment. You know, you want to do it, people are enthusiastic about it, but unfortunately, it's still not your top of your list. It's still a no. And sifting through good and great is the hardest part, I think. Same with recruiting.
So you've got all this big data now, presumably you're building up data about things. So how about payments? I mean, are small businesses as badly done to as we are led to believe? Are they struggling to get paid in 90 days instead of 30 or what? How do you see that? Because a lot of politicians jump up and down on this, and our members tell us it's not quite as bad often as politicians are led to believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of can't pay, won't pay, so like a sort of financial twist on that TV show. But I think in the can't pay bucket, I think businesses make a lot of mistakes. That means their invoices simply cannot be paid. They have failed to add a PO number. They sent it to the wrong address. They sent it to the wrong person. They
Right.
never put the right amount on it. They didn't reference the details. People make a lot of simple mistakes on invoices that mean that your recipient, your customer, simply cannot pay that invoice. Perhaps all manner of things could have gone wrong, but I would say generally it's the wrong person, wrong address, or insufficient information on the invoice to get it paid, particularly if you're talking with a large customer. So I think that's the can't pay bucket. I would estimate that probably 25% of all invoices that are late payments are falling into the can't pay. Then you get kind of won't pay, and won't pay is actually your customer's under pressure, or they really don't want to pay within terms. They actually want to pay 45 days, or they won't pay because they've got to do a payment run. It only happens on certain days of the month. Those sorts of factors. And there, I think it's just about being the squeakiest wheel, because you can then get the grease. So it is calling up those customers relentlessly, chasing them relentlessly. Again, something you can do from the Fluidly platform, like really running those debtors down aggressively, and being on top of it all the time, and that's how you get paid.
So do you get a feel for what percentage are slow payers across the board? Have you bothered to look at that yet or not?
I mean, at the moment, I think that relatively few invoices.
It's probably a bit difficult now, isn't it?
And I think that is the truth of it. I mean, there is a late payments culture in this country, and so I think it was researched by one of the general ledgers. I think it was Xero that said on average 52% of payments are late. And that actually goes to cash flow forecasting. A lot of the tools around cash flow forecasting make assumptions around you will get paid on your due date. Well, we know that at least 50% of payments are late. So making kind of due date assumptions in cash flow forecasting is a dangerous position to start, because you're already going to be way over optimistic on those debtors. I
mean, ICB did a survey when we first started. We did about 5,000 small businesses. And actually, we found one of the biggest problems was they didn't invoice on time. So they get the work done, then they say, oh, well, I'll invoice at the end of the month. Well, that's all very well, but if you've done something on the first or second month, you're already 30 days into your own cash flow before you hit theirs. Then they'd send the invoice out. Then they wouldn't like to chase because they didn't want to upset anybody. And eventually when they did, you were looking at something like a 3 to 4 month gap between service and payment, which actually was really nobody's fault other than they were being very lax. So if somebody's got a cash flow budget like you've got, that must help. That must prompt people to be a little bit more careful with what they do. Sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think getting those invoices out on time with a clear payment method. There's so many options for payment now that adding Stripe, Go Cardless, TransferWise, adding a payment method to automatically allow people to pay by credit card or pay on receipt. Really those should be on the invoice now. Making sure it's addressed correctly, sent to the right person, got all the right details on it, and then the invoice has been tracked, that it has been sent and it's been opened. These are all kind of key parts just in the basic hygiene of getting paid. So I think and I think that's also where bookkeepers can make a huge difference, because I think a lot of clients do struggle with it and find that invoicing piece hard. Even down to the effect of VAT. If you're raising VAT invoices, when do I get that? How much do I, where do I account for it? How much do I need to put aside when I receive it? All these sorts of basic questions, really. I think the biggest impact on cash flow at the moment, every business should be looking at, obviously getting the sales invoice out, collecting those debtors carefully, aggressively managing HMRC and using furlough staff if required, talking to landlords, and really going across the board with suppliers and looking for discounts. And I think businesses are being aggressive in managing that, and rightly at the moment.
I think one of the big things that I found that have come out of this, all of this, is that people are being encouraged to communicate more. I know bookkeepers communicate a lot, but it's almost, through our efforts and other people's efforts, people are actually talking more openly to their clients and more regularly, and rather than waiting until the client rings, ringing them up and making sure they're happy. And I think that's got to be a benefit. I'm hoping it continues afterwards. You know, there are a lot of things that everybody says, oh, the whole world will change when we come out of this. And then I think probably we're going to slip back into our old habits very quickly afterwards, unfortunately. But I'm hoping communication is something that benefits us.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we're seeing a lot of our partners offering weekly or daily phone calls to their clients, offering them extra services or access to technology for free, making sure that they're knowledgeable about the government support and acting as a sort of sounding board and advisor, making decisions. And we also have been working to provide and work with our members to provide webinars in conjunction with them to their client base. So really helping them, you know, back like Intelligent Cash webinars. So direct to SME support that helps aggregate the information on tips that you can do at the moment, whether that's, you know, 13 things that are being given away for free this month, or how to negotiate with your landlord on a, you know, rent reduction.
Yeah, you mentioned before that you're going to add in extra services, which you will be able to give to people because you know a lot about them, you know a lot about their cash flow. I mean, a lot of the banks are now trying to do this, as are some of the other software companies. You know, Xero, not in this country, I think mainly in Australia, they're now offering a credit card based on past history and various things. You're all going to crash in the middle somewhere, aren't you? What's it going to be down to? Just the one that you like best, or the one that gives you the best idea? Because you're all trying to offer such a wide range of services beyond your normal software.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a particular, thesis sounds too grand, but we have a particular view as to what it takes to win in that space. And for me, it's not just about can you reach the right client, but much more about, well, what's the right time and what's the right product. And so for us, the work that we're doing is really just ensuring that we can identify, using the kind of financial footprint, you know, how do we match that to appropriate financial products, and how do we anticipate that need, you know, before it's kind of as a latent need, and how do we understand the triggers that mean that people have a particular requirement at a particular time. So it really is that kind of matching process. And I think you see that you know, in the market for consumer finance already. If you look at Money Supermarket, or kind of Compare the Market, these are all sort of marketplaces, much like where the general ledgers are today, where you can go to that marketplace and have a look at all the different products and then make your own selection. But that was kind of very much the first version in the market of these things. I think what people you know, now want is much more like a kind of clear score type offer, where people already want financial products that are relevant to them specifically. They don't want to have to go and compare lots of different options and do all that work, when you already have a lot of information. Just find something that matches me and my requirements. And so really at Fluidly, our focus is how do we use that financial data to really make sure we're making the right match at the right time for the right business.
Right. Given that you've just realised now you're a Kellogg, what's next for you?
Well, for me personally,
yeah. I mean,
I think first we've got to solve this mission first. So, you know, our focus is like, how do we get not just tens of thousands of businesses, but millions of businesses sleeping better around their finances? You know, I do love small businesses. You know, they are the backbone of the economy. They generate most of the jobs, a lot of the wealth. You know, they are the reality of what, you know, small businesses drive: innovation, jobs. You know, they're a key part of the economy, but of society much more broadly. And so I don't think it's good for anyone's mental health or financial health to be in such a sort of loss at the moment around finances. It really is sort of like flying through fog for many small businesses. They are blindly looking and really uncertain about that future. And I think there's a huge role for advisors and like bookkeepers to help clients see that financial future, because you don't go into business because you want to be brilliant at finance. You go into business because you want to serve your customers, to build a great product, to, you know, to invent something. But unless you are also good at managing your finances, you know, you won't exist. And that's really where we need businesses that, you know, not just survive, but actually, you know, grow through this.
It's like I always say to our members, you're the only people I know that have ever gone into business just to look after books. But most people don't, you know, it's completely different. But
Yeah, but it's an emergency service really at this point today. You know, that's what businesses need. They are suddenly recognizing that, you know, the fourth emergency service wasn't AA after all. It was bookkeepers, and the people that are going to help them, you know, figure out how to survive in the future.
So your product is obviously solely cash flow. I know that there are extra uses of that once you've done it, but that is cash flow. Some of the software companies have their own version of this. You presumably are going to sell this product your product fluidly on the basis that because you're specializing in this, it's going to have a lot of your time concentrated on it. It's your only focus. So therefore, it's got to be better than the proprietary brands that are linked into something else that you bought as a chunk.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually seen the much vaunted offerings from the, you know, that are in this space yet. I know that you know, the general ledgers have talked about providing more cash planning tools and forecasting tools within their product. And there were some, you know, big product announcements on those from, you know, Xero from QuickBooks last year. But I suspect when it's come down to it, they've realised it's actually quite specialist and quite difficult. And so I do think what you'll see from some of those is sort of short-term forecasting, maybe 30 days, a 30-day view of cash, and probably based, as we touched on earlier, around the due dates of invoices. So, you know, what invoices are kind of coming up. But that doesn't really give you much of a forecast, much of a plan. Because most businesses I know want to know what's happening normally over a 90-day window, so a little bit further out, so they can make those plans. But also they want to make sure they're counting the non-invoiced items. So make me a plan that's going to include my rent, my payroll. Make me a plan that doesn't assume everyone's going to pay on the due dates. You know, make me a real plan, not something that's pushed in, not something theoretical, but something that is actually likely to happen. And so really there, I hope that the solution that we have that links in so seamlessly to the cloud accounting packages is sort of an easy way to deliver that.
Yeah, I think as bookkeepers, we all recognise the need for this. I mean, as an institute, we've now incorporated cash flow and budgeting as a separate element within our qualifications. So we major in on that as well. We regard this as one of, you know, it is often the unique selling point for a bookkeeper is that they'll actually work with their companies. And also because they know a lot about those businesses anyway, because they'll see them on a weekly, monthly basis more than, you know, they won't just see them at the year end, by which time it's all gone haywire or whatever. So I think it's very important to us, and I think we need to work together with organisations like you're even closer. I know we've discussed it in the past, but you're obviously doing other things. But certainly we want to try and take this out of bookkeeping and major in on what it's doing, because you know, it is that important. It's vital to small businesses, and it's a talent which our members will have. Yeah. But there's a very matter of fact, well, yes, of course I do that. But I think they need to look at it as an offer in its own right. You know, it is that important.
And I think we talked a bit about touch before, and, you know, the ability to kind of sense when something's just off, and have that radar for things. And, you know, the person that I always spoke to most in my business, my first business, when, you know, we had an in-house bookkeeper, Tim, and if I wanted to know where things were at, or things really where I'd always go and chat to Tim, like, how does it, where does it feel? What is it like? What's it like? And he'd always give me the lowdown. And I think bookkeepers just have a real sense of how the business really is, really trading kind of unvarnished truth. You know, entrepreneurs, we're always prone to being, and business owners generally, prone to being optimistic. You probably wouldn't do it otherwise. So actually sometimes what you need is that real sense of, well, this is where it's at, and here's where the issues are, here's where the opportunities are. And I think bookkeepers have that real natural sense of that, and it's about having that conversation. And that conversation is not just about, well, what happened in the past, because I don't want to just pull my accounts on an annual basis. The conversation that really goes on all the time is, you know, how much money do I need to make payroll? Can I take on that new person? How much money do I put aside for tax? You know, what if I cut these costs? Is that going to see me through? What if I do this? What if I do that? Those are all the conversations that are, you know, what business owners really care about. Yeah,
it must be 3 or 4 years ago now. I remember Jennifer Warrower, who was at Sage at the time. She's now left and gone to work for some strange company called Dirt. But Dirt, yeah, it's an eco-friendly company. You know, no idea. But anyway, she sat in my office and she said, why are people worried about year-end accounts and month-end accounts? You want to know what's happening today. And she felt that the future of what we're all doing is actually just having that answer available immediately. How am I doing? Where am I going next week? What can I spend? I need to buy something. Have I got the opportunity to do that? And if not, well, what do I have to do to be able to do that? And I think this is great. So
yeah, I mean, to build on what Jennifer said, I think it's even about where I am today. It's where I'm going to be tomorrow, and where am I going to be next week. You know, those are the questions. Like today almost is gone, but yeah, I need to know where I am today. But what I really care about, you know, our dashboard view, the first thing you see in Fluidly is what's coming up the next 7 days, what payments are expected in, what payments are expected out. And it's that sort of granularity of like what's happening, where am I at, exactly as you say.
Yeah, and I think it's been great, you know, as a businessman myself, obviously, being able to say, where are we at the moment, rather than talk, well, I haven't got all the invoices in for this month yet, so we'll have to wait and see. You know, I can't give you the figures yet. So you wait another month until you get the figures of what you were doing a month ago, which is no good to anybody. No, you can't do it. So that's fantastic. Well, look, Caroline, it's been great to talk to you again. It's wonderful to have you on as our guest.
Thank you for having me.
You've talked to us for an hour, believe it or not. You know, I know, but that's really good of you. We wish you well with Fluidly. I hope your webinar on Friday goes down well. Again, remind everybody there is a webinar on Friday, all about cash flow, all about Fluidly. Please go on and see it, because when you should be using it now. If not, you've got so much opportunity coming forward when this is going to be a key point to everything you do as a bookkeeper, and that'll be great. So thank you, Caroline.
Thank you so much.
And we will see you again shortly, hopefully.
Yes, no, great. And if we can't make the webinar, please, people can look on our website or get in contact with us at info@fluidly.com. And we can also always do a demo or set you up with anyone that wants to see the product. We can do a kind of demo with you one-to-one on that as well.
Just give the website again.
Oh, it's fluidly.com, and the email address is info@fluidly.com.
And mention Caroline's name, you'll get a discount. No. All right. Anyway, thank you, Caroline. See you soon. Cheers.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Bye.
Pleasure.